Philip Van Cleve, VCDL, Mr. Chair. Well, it's blatantly unconstitutional. In fact, here in Virginia, we have a stay on 18 to 20-year-olds purchasing a handgun. They're stayed from having to go through the universal background check because a dealer cannot transfer a handgun to somebody under 21 under federal law. And the judge said that means they cannot get a handgun at all. Therefore, this is unconstitutional. It's got a stay going on that. Other states are having the same thing where courts are overturning these exact same bans because certainly, I guarantee people from 18 to 20 years old back when this country was founded and well beyond the Civil War were all able to own firearms. So there's no historical precedent for this. Thank you very much. We oppose.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As Mr. Van Cleve stated, the 18 to 21-year-old prohibition on firearms is unconstitutional. In fact, a judge in Virginia just recently ruled that the federal prohibition on sales of handguns to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds was unconstitutional. So in passing this bill, you will be costing the taxpayers money to defend this bill because it will be challenged and it will be found to be unconstitutional.
Mr. Chairman, could Mr. Benjamin comment? We heard some things about a recent case. And
that's
I've
correct,
not read
Mr.
it.
Chairman. Yeah. The recent decision I'm familiar with came from the U.S. Federal District Court based here in Richmond, and the opinion was handed down last May of 2023. And the case involved a challenge by several under 21, above 18-year-olds, challenging their right, challenging a statute that prohibited, a federal statute that prohibited their purchasing a firearm. The holding of the court was basically that this was a violation of the Second Amendment. And the court reasoned that the right to bear arms included the right to purchase or acquire firearms. The court found that 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds were part of the people referenced in the Second Amendment, and that there was no historical tradition analogous to the statutes that were being challenged. In short, the court concluded that the government had not met their burden of showing that the restrictions on purchasing guns by 18 to 20-year-olds was part of the nation's historical tradition. That opinion, that decision is on appeal to the Fourth Circuit. I've said before that the state of the law concerning Second Amendment analysis is in flux. It's virtually impossible to say that any particular proposed statute is unconstitutional. We won't know that until the U.S. Supreme Court rules or the Fourth Circuit rules. But you should know that in this, what I would say is a very well-reasoned opinion from the U.S. District Court, this most likely, under the current analysis of Second Amendment, would be held unconstitutional.
Chairman.
Senator Stewart.
I mean, our counsel has told us it is clearly unconstitutional, and we've had, or most likely is clearly unconstitutional. I'm sorry not to put words in his mouth. And I thought this body didn't adopt laws that we believed might be unconstitutional. So with that, I'd move to pass the bill by.
Okay.
Substitute motion to report and refer to finance.
Okay, it's been a substitute motion to report and re-refer the bill to finance. And no further discussion. Clerk will open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Senator Salim, you reported, or you're off to finance.
Through.
Yeah, 9 to 6. I heard that so many times, over and over and over. That's a partisan vote. 9 Democrats, 6 Republicans.
Yep, absolutely. That's pretty much everything is passed along partisan lines in these committees. I see we have a lot of people tuning in. Chesapeake, Roanoke, Franklin. Type in the chat where you're tuning in from, please. A little bit later on, there's going to be a poll, and that QR code that you see on your screen is a direct link to the message that Philip sent out in the VA alert the other day to send a message to Governor Youngkin telling him that we want him to veto all of these unconstitutional bills. So if you didn't get that email, you can scan that QR code, or you can go directly to our website, vcdl.org, and it's right at the top of the home page.
Yeah, and I did a little tweak on it. That there was a new system for us, and it turned out that by default, it figured that people would want to also have the option of getting text as opposed to just emails on these things. And so it defaulted to assuming you wanted to get a text, which meant that you had to give your phone number. And some people were upset, I don't want to give a phone number. Well, we weren't intentionally asking, but the box was automatically checked. It says, I want text. You can't text somebody something if you don't know their phone number. So I found out where that preference is, and I turned it off. So new people won't see that. It'll be unchecked, and it won't be asking for a phone number unless they opt in to get those texts. But we didn't do that intentionally. That was just part of the system. But I did find out where I could turn it off, and hopefully have now done so.
Right, but you can uncheck the box when you go to this form. Just uncheck the box that says text message, and it won't require your phone number. Although you will be required to put in a phone number in order to send the message. If you uncheck the text box and go to the next screen, it will ask for a phone number because that is required to send the message to the governor's office. That's not our requirement. That's the governor's requirement, or the state's requirement. I see Vic Nichols is putting up a comment. The gun shows that are happening in the next couple of weeks have some postcards that you can fill out, and a lot of gun stores, I think, have gotten them as well. They've asked for them. But anyway, these postcards, you can just sign them and leave them at the VCDL booth at the gun show, and we'll put the postage on them and mail them. But they're postcards to go to the governor, as well as sending the emails and making the phone calls. So the reason we had this special meeting tonight, even though we have a live stream, our regular second Sunday of the month live stream next weekend, is to give you an update on what's going on in the General Assembly. Three bills, but two of them were duplicates, have already been sent to Governor Youngkin, and he has until the 8th. He has 5 more days to act on those bills. So, Philip, do you want to update people on those?
Yeah, and by the way, if you want to call the governor, the number to do that is 804-786 2211, 804-786-2211. So you can also call, even if you send a text to him, you could call and just, again, encourage him to do so, to veto those bills. What are we at, Pat? About 4,000 people that have sent the emails to him?
No. Yeah, I guess it was just 4, under.
Yeah, just under 4,000.
804-786-2411?
2211.
2211?
804-786-2211.
Okay. All right, I'll put it a banner up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's considering there were 59,000 emails that went out, to only have, it was less than 4,000 people that have so far sent in the message to the governor. So that's pretty, 39,037 so far have taken action on that. That's not going to get us where we need to be. So scan that QR code that's on your screen and send that message to the governor. And I just put the phone number up on the screen, and I'll put it in the chat as well. Yeah,
be sure be sure that we spread the word on this. Friends, family, everybody you can think of, because with considering there's 750,000 permit holders out there, we should have 750,000 emails. not 4,000. I mean, 4,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but it's nowhere near where we should be. Now, to be fair, Pat, it did go out on a Friday evening. It's been over the weekend. Some people don't look at their email except when they get to the office. So just so that everybody here knows, I plan on resending that alert on Monday morning. I'll probably schedule it tonight to go out around 7 or 8 a.m. tomorrow with a note saying this is a repeat, but we're trying to make sure everybody has seen this so everybody will get on board and get the job done. So I will resend it tomorrow morning. Now, as far as the bill, go ahead, Pat.
No, go ahead.
All right. As far as the bills, so far there are only 3 bills that are on the desk that have to be acted on by this Friday coming up, or technically it's by Saturday be the absolute end date, but Friday's going to be the practical cutoff. And those bills we were lucky because they're not the extremely bad ones. The extremely bad ones, we're going to have a month for the governor to make up his mind. These others, he's got to make up his mind by the end of the week. One of those is HB 46, which is one that says if you become a prohibited person, let's say you had a red flag, or you had somebody had gotten a protective order from you, then you could only turn your guns over to somebody that was 21 years or older. There's no reason that you couldn't turn it over to somebody 18, 19, or 20. They're all allowed to own any kind of regular firearm. So there's no need to say 21 or higher. And they can't live in your home with you, whoever it is. So if you're let's say you just moved to Virginia, the only person you really know is your wife, and so you got some restraining order by somebody outside the home, she couldn't lock up your guns and hold them. You'd have to find somebody somewhere to hold your guns for. It's all unnecessary. So we oppose that bill, but that one's headed to his desk. Another one is the one on school policies, where the school has to send a message, text and or email to parents within 30 days of the school year starting, telling the parents what the gun laws are on safe storage and keeping the laws on keeping guns away from children 14 years and younger, which we're okay with that part. If that's all it did, we would have probably put that in neutral. It's like, okay, you're telling people what the law is. There's nothing wrong in making sure the public understands the laws, because they are laws. But this went way beyond that. It went into, well, we also want to tell the parents how they should behave around their children if they own guns, how they should talk to other parents about if they have guns in their home. And we want to show statistics to these parents. This is all advocacy. And that is not something that the schools or government should be doing. They should not be advocating, especially advocating something that affects one of our basic civil rights, unless they were advocating in favor of it. So that bill we are against. And the other bill was the Senate version of the bill that says you got to be 21 or older and live at a different address to hold guns for somebody. So those are the bills that the governor is going to act on by Friday. So as you can see, while we oppose all of them, those are not even in the same ballpark as banning AR-15s and banning magazines over a certain capacity, and telling you can't carry in a restaurant that serves alcohol, or telling you need to get fingerprinted, other things, making it harder for you to find training to get a concealed handgun permit, requiring training to buy a firearm, all that stuff, all that big, mean, evil, vicious stuff should be arriving on the governor's desk this week coming up. So he'll have until April. So that gives us time. But we should still be piling on now. He should be hearing from us all loud and clear right now that we don't want any of this stuff. And in the alert I sent to everybody and the message you're sending the governor, we literally list all the bills that we want him to veto. And if you've looked at that, you've seen how long that list is. It's unbelievable. I think there's like 34 bills, not counting the 3 that I just said, a total of 37 bills. 37 us from every way but down, I mean, every which way you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to also mention, I had put it up on the screen earlier, when you fill out that form that Philip sent out in the VA alert, when you get to the end of the form, it takes you to a page where you can click and share the contact form onto your social media. So you can put it on X or Facebook or whatever. That really does help us have an impact when you share it out like that. And you can say, I contacted the governor because I feel strongly about this. Please consider sending a message yourself.
Even
So,
if somebody's not a gun owner, they should do it if they believe in our rights.
right.
You don't have to own a gun to believe in the Second Amendment. Some people just don't want to own guns. That's fine. We got an executive member or two that doesn't own firearms, but they believe so strongly in it that they become executive members.
And, I tell people all the time that the right to keep and bear arms is the one that protects your right to speak up about all of the other issues that you believe in, whether it be the right to life or whatever, the right to medical freedom, any of those things. Without the right to keep and bear arms, which is the right to keep our government from infringing on our rights, you lose the ability to speak up about anything else that matters to you.
Yeah, and again, when you look at what's happening around us, that the goal is to disarm us. It's not. Years ago they kept saying, "Oh, only reasonable gun control. That's all we want." We know that's a lie, and now you really have to be blind, deaf, and dumb not to see where we're headed with this, and that it is disarmament. They want us to be like the rest of the world, helpless and dependent upon a government to hopefully not put us in boxcars and ship us off somewhere because they don't like our philosophies. So it's a very real threat that we're under, and we better react like it is. And by the way, Bruce Jackson reminded me about the postcards. He suggested I point out when we want these in the mail. Let's go ahead and do it now. If you got a postcard, let's mail them right away. So if you get one at the gun show, again, VCDL will mail it for you if you wish. You can mail it yourself if you wish, or you can give a donation, let VCDL mail it, whatever you want to do. But we printed 10,000 cards. It would be really sweet if all 1,000 of them ended up on the governor's desk.
So someone is asking, and I'm sorry, they didn't give permission when they clicked on the links. So if you're in a Facebook group, you have to grant permission to EVMux so that your username shows up. But anyway, they want to know if the postcard is available on a web page so that they can print them out and put a stamp on it and send it off themselves.
Yeah, we haven't put it on a web page because I don't know, you'd have to make a postcard, I guess. I never really thought about it, but we just figured that the email would be our version of getting most people able to do it. So we have not put anything up on the website. I mean, we could if people really were going to be able to do something with that image and make a postcard and put a stamp on it and send it off. But that's why we really haven't bothered.
Can they send an email to bruce@vcdl.org and ask him to mail them some?
Yeah, I believe Bruce would be happy to do that. Better yet, with some people, people have been contacting me. I've been forwarding them on to Bruce. Some people, for example, maybe you live in the Richmond area and you want to go by a couple of the big gun stores and drop off postcards so they can hand them out to their customers. And again, Bruce can get you cards if you tell him how many, and take them by one of your gun stores there. I'm sure the gun stores would be more than happy to send them out, especially since gun stores are under bad attack with one of the gun bills. If it's an at-home business and they're within 1.5 miles of a school, who isn't within 1.5 miles of a school? They can't run their business. It looks like my
Right.
image is frozen, but I guess my voice is still coming through.
Yeah. So the gun shows, I still hear you, but
Yeah.
people comment if you can't hear Philip. Anyway, the gun shows coming up this month are Salem on the 9th and 10th. Fredericksburg and Richmond both have shows on the 16th and 17th. And Hampton has a show on the 23rd and 24th. And then Fishersville is on the 6th, but I think we're hoping to have all the cards out by then, aren't we?
Oh yeah, yeah. Hopefully, looks like I'm back. The problem was on the EV Mux end. It was on my background software.
Okay.
For some reason it froze and it came back now. So
Okay.
at least it didn't affect the voice. Yeah, that's right. We want to get all this stuff done, well before the end of March even. But we can keep spreading it. I mean, these messages should continue to go out until early April. April 17th is when it's over. And on April 17th, the governor has had to act on everything. And that's when the veto session comes in, and the Democrats will try to override any vetoes. But they don't stand a chance in hell of overriding a veto on a gun bill. So I'll say that much. The vast majority of Republicans have all stood together and voted correctly. In fact, in the Senate, I believe it's pretty much a perfect record there. And the House, just one or two that went off the tracks a couple times, maybe 6 times. But they've done a very good job. So that means the Democrats really have no hope of overriding a veto. So, but if we don't start making sure we're all voting and getting active in politics, if we end up with the wrong governor in 2 years and the wrong House and the wrong Senate, you're going to be living 2019 all over again, and maybe on steroids. So let's not do that. Let's stay active. I see Bruce
Yes. Speak of the devil and look
Yeah,
who appears.
You know, I wasn't planning on joining. I was actually going to just about ready to go to bed early, but I heard your comments. Printing a postcard just doesn't work that well unless you've got the right paper. It also wouldn't necessarily call attention to it. I would just say, if you want to send something and you can't get a postcard, just write a letter. Makes them take an extra minute to open it anyway. And mailing out one, if I mail it, I got to fold it. If I fold it, it may not survive going through the machines once somebody tries to mail it in. So I would not recommend that. Also, about 75% of the postcards have been doled out. As a matter of fact, I just put a package together for Tom G to take up to, or I should say down to Green Top, and start issuing them out there. And I think he's going to make that run on Wednesday or Thursday. If that's too late, I should probably repurpose those cards.
No. That's fine. That's fine. Also, maybe we could find somebody to take them to the other one, the other major Colonial Shooting Academy. Maybe we could find somebody to drop some off at Colonial Shooting, as well as those like in Chesterfield. We've got several ranges in the Central Virginia area.
Somebody gives me a quantity and gives me their address. I will mail them some if they want to drop them off. Does somebody need to call Colonial first and verify that they're okay with it? Who will pick them up? Who's paying postage?
Right. Okay. And I would imagine that the gun stores, I would think, I don't know, I would think they would be probably willing to cover postage, considering again they're on the chopping block along with the rest of us. But if not, then they can, VCDL would cover the postage.
Well, again, then whoever, for those listening, whoever would be willing to do this, they may have to make multiple trips. They may have to buy the postage. If they do, keep the receipt. VCDL can reimburse them for that.
Yep. And also Dominion Shooting Range in Chesterfield, another one that somebody could take some cards to.
So I think Nat's got Salem. Nate, I'm sorry, he's got Salem covered because I gave him those at out at Roanoke when I went to Safe Side Tactical. I sent John Gosney 1,000 of them, so he
Okay.
should be covered.
The Richmond show. What about Fredericksburg show coming up the same weekend?
Fredericksburg show, I'll just probably walk him down.
Okay. I'll tell you what, if you're there handing them out, they'll all get put in somebody's hand.
That's never
I need to
happened
clone. I need to clone you somehow for that. I mean, Bruce is a machine at handing out stuff, and it's just amazing. Absolutely machine. I'm just the opposite. I'm no good at it. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, but boy,
The packing station.
oh yeah.
So, there was something else, and I can't remember off the top what it was about the cards and stuff. But I think that pretty much covers it.
75% is a good start. We got time, Bruce. Now, at this point, we just need to get that stuff that the governor's got it by, the beginning of next month. We should be in pretty good shape with the postcards. But I would still get them out. I wouldn't sit on a card. Get them out if you got them. Mail them. Let's get them out there. In fact, it's really impressive when they come in massive stacks, as opposed to trickling in over time. When the postman comes up with a cart.
Yes, it
I
is.
think Jim Snyder tells a story about some politician. It might have even been the governor. And there was another organization that said they didn't have to worry about, they could veto this bill because or do something to kill this bill because nobody really thought it was important. And the politician reached behind him, picked up a stack of postcards and said, then what do these mean? What do I do with these?
Yes.
So, lots of postcards speaks volumes. Back in the day, there was a very politically astute gentleman down in Richmond. And one of our people asked him, how many contacts, and this is before email, this is quite a while ago, said, how many contacts do you have to get? How many letters do you have to get on a topic to believe that it's a hot button issue? And he thought for a minute, and I want everybody to get a number in their head. He said 10. So if 10 of you got together back in the day, you could have influenced Virginia politics. Navy Federal Credit Union went anti-gun for a while, and then they reversed their policy. And I was talking to the security guy because VCDL was getting ready to start a campaign on that because that was absolutely insane for, to disarm the military folks. And I said, well, let me call them one more time and see. And I called them up, and the security guy said, oh, well, we dropped that policy. I was getting way too much email. I said, well, thank you and all that. And then I got thinking about it just before I hang up. I said, just out of curiosity, how many emails were you getting? How much were you getting? He said, I was getting almost 7 a week. So how many members do we have? I've gone after that. I went to one of the VCDL meetings and I said, and this is in the old Mason Government Center. And we had, I don't know, probably 50, 60, 70 people there. And I said, just out of curiosity, how many people do their banking at Navy Federal? Half of the people sitting there raised their hand. Those people there could have got the policy changed that much sooner if they just taken the time to write.
Yeah, I've seen some amazing by some of our members on their own before we even had to get involved. Just one person contacting the right other person and making a good logical case. I've seen that turn things around. You'd be surprised the power that you have out there as either a consumer or as a constituent. Well,
So, Bruce, Deb Tide said she's in Chesterfield and can run postcards to Dominion Shooting Range.
Somebody give me a quantity and Bruce at VCDL.org, she can send me her address. And as soon as I get a quantity, I'll get them out the door. If it gets to me tonight, I'll have them in the mail tomorrow.
okay, so it's Bruce at VCDL.org, and then just tell them I want 50 cards or whatever. Give them a number. Don't say a load. That doesn't tell them anything. Give them a number.
So
how many you want?
I'm very specific on numbers, and I won't tell the long story because it's horrible. But let's just say I've gotten spanked several times over quantities. And I went to public school, and I didn't do really well, but I can tell you now on Mrs. Modest's math test, if I wrote some, a lot, a boatload, a handful, or a bunch, or a batch, it was going to be wrong.
Yeah,
So one
yeah.
guy asked for a batch of carry cards one time, and I said, a batch is 60,000. I don't need that many. I said, well, I guess you better give me a number.
Yeah, I could see that. What's 60 times 24? A boatload. Wrong, Johnny. Oh, man. So some of the bills, I mean, looking at the bills that are out there, some of the most egregious are the HB2 and SB2. These are bans on, they've expanded what you call an assault firearm. In the old days, back in the 90s, when the original assault weapon ban went in Congress, you had to have two features on a gun, like and they've changed that to one feature. So now if you've got a magazine that can be taken off, you only need one other feature: a muzzle brake, a grenade launcher, because we've heard of all the grenade launcher murders in America, right? Flare launcher, um, pistol grip, foldable stock, collapsible stock, all of that stuff. Just one of those. So they've expanded the definition. It's not the old school definition of what they used to call with the most misnomer assault firearm. They're going after magazines that will hold more than 10 rounds. What they're doing is they're saying, well, they don't want to make it seem like they're 2019 with a huge number of Second Amendment sanctuaries and the huge 50,000 person turnout in 2020 of January, when they said they might be actually confiscating. So they didn't want to do that. So they learned a lesson from that. So they're saying, oh no, you can keep the guns you have now, but starting in July, no new guns for you. Which they also took away the right of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to get a gun, assault firearm, if you will. So those people, when they turn 21, wouldn't be able to buy a new gun, because new guns would be outlawed. You'd have to find a used gun, and so forth. So those bills are particularly egregious. But there are others out here that are every bit as egregious. They just don't go after those type of guns. Now, what they're going to ultimately do is they want to go after semi-automatics. That's kind of what other countries did. They'll just say, nope, semi-automatic, I don't care what features you got. This is eventually coming. If we let them get something like this, they'll come back and say, yeah, no semi-automatics for you. Lever action, bolt action, break open. And then eventually they'll start to take those away too. But they know that they'd capture a huge number of guns if they did semi-automatics. That's the vast majority of the guns I own. I don't know about you guys, but it certainly is for me. They want to, of course, those of us that have caused zero problems are the concealed handgun permit holders in Virginia. Again, they don't want us to carry in restaurants. They got a bill to take away concealed carry in a restaurant. And what they said was hilarious, because they said, oh, well, you can just open carry. And I thought, now that's interesting, isn't it? Because they don't like seeing guns. In fact, there's a bill that was put in because people were open carrying some guns. And the Democrats said, well, you can't do that. So they have a bill that bans open carry of a bunch of types of guns, but they want you to open carry in a restaurant. And the reason is they're thinking that the store will see that, the restaurant will see that and put up a no gun sticker. And since you're open carrying, they then would be able to make sure that you can't come in the restaurant. What happened in practice when that was the law prior to 2010 was that people open carried any attention to them. I can only think of just a few times in all the years we had to do that a restaurant said no. It was extremely rare. Most people didn't even notice. But the Democrats the people that are pushing these bills don't carry guns. They don't understand guns. They don't understand how things work in the real world. But that's what they're pushing for. Have any of us said anything wrong? No, we've not.
Philip,
Yeah.
I actually got to say, I was kind of disappointed when we did get the ability to carry concealed in restaurants, because it gave such an educational opportunity for the people that did notice. and like I was sitting in a restaurant eating with someone, and somebody came up to me, and said, "Who you with?" I said, "I'm with her." He said, "No, what organization?" And I said, "The company I work for." And he kind of looked at me, cocked his head and looked at me weird. It's like, why do you have a gun then? I'm sitting there thinking, hey, if you guys don't need anything, I'm going to duck out of this. I got to get up.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody out there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sending in the cards. Thanks for making the phone calls. If we are to be successful, it's because of what you do. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
And Bruce,
Okay.
there was a message that you are appreciated. So, and I put up a poll on the screen here. If you've already contacted the governor, or if you're going to do it tonight, or if you've contacted them and shared that you've contacted them on social media, just give us an idea of who's already taken advantage of the link that we sent out, so that we can have an idea of how many people that are here tonight have already done this. Also, please share the emails that you get when you get the VA alert. If you still have Fridays, or if you want to wait for the one coming out Monday morning, do share that with your friends and relatives, but strip the unsubscribe link at the bottom, because if somebody unsubscribes, or even worse, if somebody reports it as spam, then we won't be able to send you emails anymore, because that link at the bottom is coded to your email. So down at the bottom, just click the forward button, and then go down to the bottom of the email and erase that part that has the unsubscribe link, so that you don't accidentally get taken off of the distribution list.
Right.
So,
that's good. It's good that you did that poll. That's rather interesting.
yeah. So one of the other things that I thought was convoluted, of course, we can't assign logic to politicians. We know that. But they were so adamant about they have to tell parents about the dangers of having firearms in the home. And it was so egregious that they had to send out texts within 30 days of school starting. Yet they want to make it harder for people to get training by removing NRA instructors and USCCA instructors as qualified instructors for safety. Now, keep in mind that for decades, the NRA has advised government agencies all over the country, and even all over the world potentially, on safety protocol for setting up their ranges and all sorts of things. Yet they're not qualified to certify instructors to teach you how to carry a concealed firearm. So
Yeah, and they definitely want to make it harder for you to get a permit. And I'll give you an example with that bill that Pat's talking about. The excuse they were using is, well, we don't hard code any private company in the law to say that they're somehow quoted in the law. So I said, okay. I said, all you need to do then is say, and companies that can offer training can be found on the Virginia State Police website, and they could code that in the law. Then the state police would simply put up a list that said NRA, USCCA, and whoever else might come along at the national level, say, to offer training. And that way it would change constantly, and they wouldn't have to change the law. Did they do that? Oh, no. That was a simple fix. But see, that wasn't the real problem. That was just the excuse that they had, and they didn't want to solve the problem. They didn't want to make it easier for you to get a permit. That's what we're up against. And they're, as far as if you make your own gun, boy, I tell you what, the serialized thing, they want you to serialize those homemade guns. I mean, if you even assemble parts of a gun that are not, the gun's not serialized, it's a crime under a bill that they've got in HB 173.
Yeah, I see. We have a Facebook user commenting that it puts a lot of people out of business if they do that. It does. There's a lot of people that specialize in um, teaching firearm safety and so forth, but they obviously don't care about it. I stood up in committee and testified that 1,600 FFLs would be put out of business with this ban on home-based FFLs that are within a mile and a half of a school. And so they didn't care. They obviously didn't care. They said, oh, well, they'll be grandfathered in, but it doesn't say that in the law.
Oh, no.
No, it absolutely does not say that in the law. So they would not be grandfathered in unless you specifically put it in the law.
Right. What will happen is, especially those of you that live in Northern Virginia or Charlottesville or the city of Roanoke, is that they would immediately review all the FFLs that have a home-based business as soon as that law passed and rezone it and zone them out. That's what they would do. Oh, hello from Chicago. Well, I grew up in Chicago, the suburbs.
Yep. So we just wanted to jump on here tonight and give you guys an update. Philip, are there other bills that are notable that you want to comment before we jump off?
Yeah,
here?
we got a few. And one of those that they don't want. They really don't want a new generation of kids to know about guns and all that stuff. But they even want it so that if you have a minor in your home, in other words, 17 and younger, they want your guns locked up. Now, there have been lots and lots of cases where 15, 16, 17-year-olds have used a gun to stop a home invasion or a violent attack on a family member, where I know there were cases where a parent was being murdered, being beat to death, and a 16 or 17-year-old with a firearm put an end to that. So they have this one-size-fits-all bill that says if you got a minor, you're going to have to lock your guns up. And if you want them loaded, you have to lock them in a biometric safe. Otherwise, you have to unload them too while you're at it. And biometrics are nice. I've got a few. But in an emergency, sometimes it doesn't read your fingerprint the first time or maybe the second time. Then they've got these biometric sets. They just discovered that we're letting anybody's fingerprint open the safe. So, again, when you got people making laws, they don't know what they're doing. They don't really they've heard the term biometric, and they're picturing things, but they've never owned one. They've never used one. They don't read the press and the papers about problems. They're the ones that are pushing this. Now, of course, we got the 5-day waiting period on a gun purchase. That's another one. And as I pointed out, again, it made no difference. California has a 10-day wait, and they've got twice the violent crime rate that we do. So clearly, it doesn't work. I said crime rate. They're a bigger state. They got more people. Rate goes by a standard, which is how much crime per 100,000 people. And they have double the rate we do. We are the 9th safest state, according to the FBI's data that they've got on Uniform Crime Report data. So that doesn't work. Did that influence anybody? Not one Democrat? Nope. Not a single Democrat was influenced by the 10-day wait in California. Let me tell you, that's on their list. That's where they're going to go. If they get 5-day, it still didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work. Criminals aren't going to go through that wait. So when it doesn't work, as we know it won't, then they're going to say, well, all right, we need a 10-day wait. That's not going to work either. We know that. We know this is all a farce. It all is, and we're having to fight it. And it's so irritating that we even have to go through this.
Slightly off topic, but I was reading the other day that the Gun Violence Archive website said that there were 460 some mass shootings last year, but the FBI statistics said that there were 70. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
and even the gun control groups don't agree on that number.
Right. Yeah,
they're all over the map.
They obviously have no problem fudging the figures. and manipulating the data to make it show what they want to show.
They're also going after manufacturers and people that sell parts to guns. Not even a manufacturer. You know, maybe you sell some nice slings, or you sell magazines. If this bill became law, and one of those magazines or slings you sold somebody ended up being in the hands of a felon, well, you don't run a background check for magazines and slings. Then
No.
you could be sued. You could be sued. Gun manufacturers could be sued for what criminals do with guns. So this would be, again, the equivalent of a drunk driver crashing his car and killing somebody and then suing instead of going after the guy that was driving drunk. And it sounds like insanity. We want to say these people are insane. The pattern is there. Any way they can disarm us, they're coming at us from all directions. Throw the logic away. You're not trying to solve crime. You're not doing any of that. You're trying to disarm people, and you're trying to fool them while you're doing it. So, we just need common sense gun control. We just need to stop the drive-by shooting. So, we need to get rid of these quote-unquote assault weapons rather than getting rid of the guys in the car that are actually doing the shooting.
Deb, maybe they're criminally insane. What about Marsden's bill for the $500 fine and towing your car if you leave a gun locked in your car, but it happens to be visible to somebody?
A handgun, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about that? Because
Yeah.
my answer was get rid of the gun-free zone so we don't have to leave our guns in our car.
Right.
And the problem's pretty much solved right there. But again...
Even then, when he gave up and stood up and gave his speech, he way overinflated the number of guns that were stolen out of cars. By like 7 to 10 times the number of guns that were stolen out of cars.
I don't remember if he used a national figure and then said that was Virginia. I think that might be what he did.
No, it was more than the national figure, because I looked it up because I was shocked by the number he said. I said, that can't be right. And I was right. It was not right. But
I think the Democrats have a random number generator they use for all their data.
Yeah, I mean, when it's restrictions, the magic number is 10.
Yeah. Well, our feet too. I mean, come on. 20, And if you're a man, you get 21. So
Yeah, but then when it's things that they want to quote statistics, it's in the thousands all of a sudden. So,
and the 97% of gun owners, they come up with percentages like that, whatever it is. Oh yeah, 95% of gun owners want this too. It's like,
yeah, they must have a random number generator there, and it's a big random number generator for things to prove their point, and a small random number generator for things they'll let you have.
Pat, yeah, I remember in committee, I was in the House. The gun control crowd was up there throwing numbers out left and right, and then one person came up and gave a statistic. And then they went to sit down, and one of the delegates said, well, where did you get that statistic? Suddenly they were focusing on trying to tear apart the one statistic that the pro-gun side had and ignored the onslaught of numbers thrown out by their own side. It was just, again, they're so transparent. It's, if you don't laugh, you'll cry at it.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Well, Marsden, when he was up there talking about his guns and cars bill, and one of the committee members asked him, why are you doing this only for handguns and not for long guns also? And he said, well, I like hunters, and I don't want to keep them from having their shotguns in their car.
So what's the counter to that? I hate handgun people. I hate non-hunters. You guys are all scum. So
I almost fell out of my chair on that one. Just say the quiet part out loud, why don't you?
Yeah. Then banning guns and hostages. It's just one thing. Creating gun-free zones left and right. Playing right into Marsden's hands there. I wonder if he's getting a cut off all the tow. Yeah, and I pointed out, hey, now the tow truck company, the towing company, has a gun in a car, and you don't know who these people are, and you're letting them tow this car away. Now they're in control of that firearm.
Right.
Does
Or an
that make
impound
any
lot.
sense?
Yeah. We know an impound lot's a safe place, right? Nothing ever gets
Well,
stolen out of an
nothing gets
impound
stolen
lot.
out of an impound lot.
Yeah. So Christy Lynn is asking, so it's okay to have an AR-15 in your car visible? Yes. Actually, you can't conceal a loaded rifle in your car.
Even unloaded.
But there are certain places where you go where you can't have a magazine that is more than 20 rounds unless you have a concealed handgun permit.
And they're trying to get rid of that exemption and
Right.
make it any type of an AR or AK. Yeah.
Right.
Then they also they're closing the boyfriend loophole, they call it, which means now an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, or a current boyfriend or girlfriend can get you flagged for basically have your gun taken away because they claim you assaulted them. By the way, they've also got a bill that goes after a lot more misdemeanors to take your gun rights away, like for 5 years. Things like simple assault. Now, what is simple assault? Simple assault is like, let's just say somebody came up to you and they pulled their fist back, like threatening you, but didn't actually hit you. That's simple assault. You're not really hurt, but they threatened you, and with some kind of a physical action, even though that physical action didn't connect. Or maybe they swung at you and missed, or maybe they even intentionally missed, but just that's simple assault. And they want to take away your gun rights for 5 years for a simple assault. And assault and battery, stalking, stalking.
Now, keep in mind, these are misdemeanor offenses. This is not felony assault and battery. This is misdemeanor.
So misdemeanor means minor crime. So these are minor crimes that they want to make a major right. Again, the goal is not to make boyfriends and girlfriends safer. The goal is to find more and more and more and more ways to take your guns away, more excuses to take them out of your hands, to make it harder to get a permit to carry. You can carry in less places. You can't miss the picture.
How do you eat an elephant?
It's a puzzle that if you take each of the pieces, they all fit together and they make one nice little mosaic, which shows you standing there like this with no guns in your hands. That's the puzzle when you put it together that they're trying to do.
Right. That's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
They want you to be fingerprinted for concealed handgun permits. We used to have that. That was a pain in the rear end. You have to take off work because you have to do it usually certain hours, which can be very restrictive in some localities. So you have to take off, like Monday through Friday, and maybe not all of those days are available. Certain hours, go down to a police department and get fingerprinted. And that's all before you've even put in your application. So that's another one that they're putting in. That's pretty much that's hit every single one. But even the minor ones are bad. They really is. And again, to remind everybody, look, if there were lions eating people on the streets of Richmond, wouldn't you think that they would take the lions and lock them away in a zoo behind bars so they weren't eating people? Wouldn't that be the way you would stop lion attacks in Virginia or in Richmond? Well, what you wouldn't do if you wanted to stop lion attacks is go to the zoo and let all the lions out onto the streets of Richmond. That's not how you stop a lion attack. So if you're trying to stop violent crime, you would take the bad people and lock them in behind bars in our version of a human zoo, and that would be it. You wouldn't take all the people that you put behind bars earlier because they're bad, evil people and put them on the streets of Richmond to make the crime go down. That's not how it works. But that's what they're doing. Again, part of that mosaic I'm talking about. There were 2 bills that said on the second time that somebody commits a violent a violent felony with a handgun, the second time they've robbed a bank or raped somebody or murdered somebody or grievously hurt somebody, that they would go to jail for at least 10 years and no less. The gun control groups, all of them stood up and said, no, 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 we don't want that. Oh, the Democrats all said, no, 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 we don't want that, because these were Republican bills, and they killed them. Those would save lives, because if you take the violent people off the streets where they can't hurt anybody, then people aren't going to get hurt. It kind of makes very basic sense. And again, this is why I'm telling you, it's not about lowering crime. It's not about making it safer. They want those criminals driving that crime rate up, so they've got their excuse to try to take our guns away with all these laws that are supposedly going to lower the crime rate. It's a lie, and we better be fighting back against it.
So, yeah, so Christy Lynn, I think, has had a question about with regards of having a handgun in a car visible, but I don't see the question. I just see the start of it. Basically, I mean, let's be clear. We don't advocate leaving your gun in your car visible. However, we don't advocate punishing the victim of a crime for the actions of the criminal. You don't prosecute a woman that was raped because she wore a dress that was appealing. Okay, that's just wrong. So theft is against the law. Yes, we advocate if you must leave your gun in your car, get a car safe or something. Put it where it can't be seen and lock it up in the best way that you can. Granted, there's nothing that will truly stop a criminal intent on getting to it, but don't make it easy for them. So criminals are like water. They take the path of least resistance.
Yeah, but, it seems like it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like in the Middle East, it seems to me like if women are too risque, they get beat if they're wearing the wrong clothes. It's kind of the same mentality that we would have with the situation here. Oh, you're tempting people to steal your guns, therefore we're going to punish you. You know, it's so wrong, but they do it all with a straight face. Yeah, and by the way, for those, you might say, well, what about a person that doesn't have a concealed handgun permit? What do they do if the handguns in their car? They can't conceal it legally. Well, you can. There was that exception that some people that may have forgotten about. In a vehicle, even if you don't have a permit, you can legally store your gun in a glove box, a console, or any closed compartment or container. So you do have that option. So you're not stuck having to leave it on the car seat or on the dash or anything. And that might be one reason they did it.
A lot of people don't realize that. For so long, it was against the law to put the gun in your glove box unless you had a concealed handgun permit. It had to be visible. So people maybe don't know that the law was changed a few years ago. I still get a lot of people coming into my shop that probably more than 3/4 of the people that come into the shop don't realize that they can conceal a handgun in their car without having a permit. They just don't, because it wasn't widely publicized.
Yeah, so, it's almost counterintuitive. Well, why can I do it there and not anywhere else?
Right.
But we'll take it. But
right.
You do have to. Well, largely, Pat. This whole idea of needing a permit for concealed carry is stupid anyhow. Why do we have to do anything? Why can't we just conceal our guns and go about our life? But if you're going to make it illegal to do it, then I guess I can see where people would say, yeah, but why is it okay in a car? Well, it's only okay in a car because they made an exception specifically for an automobile.
Right.
We pushed that through back then. We did. Well, one of the reasons was that some people were saying, yeah, I've got a child in the car with me, and I don't want to leave my gun out where that child can. I want to be able to lock it away in the glove box or the console or something while I'm driving. And that was, that helped, that was the logic that would help push that through.
Well, that was the same thing with the restaurant ban. There were restaurateurs that were getting upset because people were open carrying in their restaurant and some of their customers didn't understand, and they got tired of explaining to those customers they have every right, they're not breaking the law, and they have the same right to be here that you do, and don't worry about it. So the concealed carry in a restaurant that serves alcohol, provided you're not consuming alcohol. It was 2010 when that passed, I believe.
Yeah.
14 years
Yep.
without an incident. 14
Yeah.
years, and there hasn't been a problem. With 700,000 permit holders in Virginia, if there was a problem, we'd know about it. It would be all over the news.
Yeah, they had to find an excuse, and their excuse was, "Oh, somebody left the gun in the restroom." Okay, well, who was that? Do you know it was a permit holder?
They won't
Do you
say,
know? They don't know.
which tells me it probably wasn't a permit holder, but yeah, and
In
you
fact,
don't even know if they were concealed carrying.
yeah, you don't know any of that.
Right. But even so, even if it was a permit holder and they were concealed carrying, one incident,
Yeah.
one in 14 years, where's the problem?
But again, they're not looking for solutions to problems. Well, the problem they're trying to solve is how do we get guns out of the population? How do we make them depend on government? That's the problem they're trying to solve with all this.
Right.
And any other factor figure is just irrelevant to them. So we're stuck. We got people that want us helpless, and we're determined not to be helpless. The battle lines are drawn, and we there's a lot of us. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. So as long as we get active, vote, do these things, get tens of thousands of emails going to the governor. If we have a big lobby day, all that stuff helps make it harder and harder. At the same time, the courts are going our way mostly. And so, to some degree, their world is shifting yet again. So it's not like we're looking at an abyss. I mean, we could end up in an abyss if we're not careful. But we're still together. We still are gun owners. They haven't taken anything away yet. We just have to keep fighting to make sure that they don't. And there are certain things I don't think anybody would comply with if they did, quite frankly.
All right. Are there any more egregious bills that there's
No,
a
I
ton
think
more
not.
of egregious bills,
Yeah,
but
I think those are the main ones. Does anybody have any questions online that you would like Pat or I to answer for you? Maybe about a bill, if you got any questions about a particular bill or thing.
So I just put up in the chat boxes across all the socials. Visit VCDL-LIS, Legislative Information Service.org, to check on the current status of all the bills. And the cool thing about that website is that if you click on the bill number, it actually takes you to that bill page, and you can read the bill, the full text of the bill. You can see who voted how on the bills by clicking on the different votes. And it's a really valuable tool. And the bills are sorted by the ones right now, the strongly oppose are at the top because all of the support and strongly support are dead for the year, I'm sad to say. But the strongly opposed are all lumped together, and then the opposed are all lumped together. And then down at the bottom, you can see the ones that have been either killed for the year or rolled into other bills. So that website, vcdl-lis.org, is an excellent tool. You can also get to that from our homepage, vcdl.org. There is a link on our homepage to message the governor. It's right at the top of the homepage. So you can go to vcdl.org and click on the link. If you can't scan the QR code here or didn't hit the link that I posted in the chat. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're a little bit over an hour here, so we're going to
Yeah.
call it a night.
Well, I would say one thing too. I just saw a post from Christy Lynn Elliott Hollingsworth. It caught my eye and it really bothers me. She said, "I've stopped caring because I'm afraid to get caught in a place that I shouldn't be." Christy, don't do that. The website will tell you where you can't carry. We got a little card that tells you where you can't. If you're carrying concealed, even if you make a mistake, probably nobody's going to know. If you see metal detectors, then yeah, then you might want to make sure that where you're going, you can go through those metal detectors with a gun. But please don't stop carrying, especially being a woman. Don't do that. There are ways you can find out, and you got to relax with it. Again, you're carrying concealed. If you make a mistake, and I know a couple times I've almost made a mistake because you get so used to carrying, you forget you're carrying. It's just I don't think I'm wearing socks every day, but if you're carrying concealed, it's like whoops, just turn around and walk out. Nobody's going to know. So, please don't stop caring. I mean, I was actually terrified to see that. I don't want any of our women to be in a position where they're helpless. I just don't like that. Maybe
So
it's just
make no mistake, the fact that they neutered statewide preemption and allowed localities to create this patchwork of laws of where you can and can't carry, and the fact that they make the laws so convoluted and hard to figure out, like, oh, what locality can I not have a magazine that's more than 20 rounds? And am I allowed to have it if I have a CHP, or am I not allowed to have it, or whatever? They do this deliberately so that people just throw their hands up and say, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, so I just won't do it. And that way
that's
I'm
the intent.
safe. And that is the absolute intent of them passing all of these idiotic, asinine laws. Excuse me, but that's what they are. So
And
if we
also,
give in, they win.
I was going to say to Christy, also, yeah, and you brought up a good point, Pat, tying into that. If your concern is, well, I live in Northern Virginia and I sometimes go to parks and well, first of all, for these local gun control bans to be effective, they have to post the area. So if you're really concerned and you live in Northern Virginia, just look at the entrance to a park or look at the entrance to a building and see if you see one of the state no gun or some kind of a citywide no gun sign there. It's supposed to be posted prominently. So you look for that. If you don't see a sign and they forgot to put signs in a park, then oh well, then they can't enforce that law in a park. So state parks you can carry in, grocery stores you can carry in. I was looking at churches. That's private property, but it's not against the law to carry in churches for self-defense. Hospitals often have policies, but they'll have them posted. So if you're going somewhere like that, but gosh, I go about all the time. I guess because I don't go in hospitals frequently. But I go into stores all the time. I go into parks. I'm all over the place. It's rare that I ever have to leave my gun in the car. Very rare. The other thing you might consider is they have Byrna makes a pepper ball gun. Which these things are pretty wicked for self-defense, but they're not a firearm. So like all the parks in Northern Virginia and all the places they say you can't bring a gun, a pepper ball launcher is not covered by that. So that's something that looks like a gun and can launch a pepper ball like a gun would, but it's not lethal. But it's a pretty good deterrent. I'll put it that way. And I had one of those at Lobby Day outside when we were doing the outside session because it was legal there. I couldn't bring a handgun in that area, but I had a pepper ball on me that day. It looks like a Glock. So
Yeah,
anyhow, I mean, you've got options. Go ahead, Pat.
right. The pepper ball guns are a lot more effective than pepper spray.
Yes.
But pepper spray and taser are okay, but they're up close and personal. Pepper ball gun has a much longer range. But keep in mind that these private property places that are posted, it's if you don't see the sign. For instance, you go into a grocery store and they had a little no gun sign on the door and you didn't happen to notice it, and you go in and somebody does notice that you're carrying, they'll ask you to leave. If you refuse to leave, they can charge you with trespass. But it's not a crime per se unless they say you need to leave and you say, no, I'm not leaving.
Exactly.
Then
You have a way out.
right. So the private property thing is not as big of an issue as state buildings are.
Yeah, the state buildings, it's a law. When you pass that sign, you've actually then broken a law. But private property, no. Trespass is, really the courts want the police. Usually they expect the owner to tell you no. If you keep hanging around, the police will come and say, you can't do this, please leave. And then if you don't go, they arrest you. But it's like you basically to get arrested on a trespass. So that's the way to look at that. And so if it's merely a property rule, then you can weigh that in your head. Would I be willing to take a chance on getting kicked out of here, or would I rather be in a position to protect myself? As long as you carry concealed, no harm, no foul. In fact, for a lot of places, they really don't care if you're carrying concealed. They just don't want you open carrying. So anyhow, keep it in mind. I saw that and I almost jumped out of my chair because I really hate that thought. So,
right.
You can always contact me if you have any questions, Christy. I'll be glad to give you some advice or whatever. So that's it. I guess we'll let everybody go, but I appreciate everybody coming out. We got our fight in front of us, but let's get those. We're keeping track. We can see how many of these things are going to the governor. Let's get those numbers way up. Keep spreading the word. An alert will go out tomorrow to remind everybody again.
Yep, we had a few more contact forms go out tonight. So let's see, 5 more and we're over 4,000. So click that link and send them in, folks, and then share the link on your socials so that we can flood the governor's office with these emails, make the phone calls, fill out the postcards. Let's get this done. We can absolutely make a difference if we work together. So thank you all for your activism. VCDL is, a handful of people or nothing against the onslaught of these anti-gun, anti-rights people in the General Assembly. But when we have almost 60,000 people on the VA Alert subscriber list, and if just 10% of those send those emails to the governor, that's a flood of emails in his box. So if you're going to be at the gun shows in the next couple of weeks, be sure to stop by the VCDL booth, fill out the postcard. We'll be happy to put postage on it and send it. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. Share the video of this. The recording will be up on YouTube, so share it with your friends so they can take part in this as well. And we will see you next Sunday night at 8 o'clock for our normal live stream. And then the third Thursday of the month, we'll be back at XCal for an in-person meeting.
Yeah, and I just remembered I've got to update the list of localities that have gun control to add Henrico.
Yeah.
And put that stuff in there.
What a shame.
Right. Well, elections have consequences. We need a new election and kick those people out of there. Fix this.
Yep.
Or fix the law.
Guys.
Good night.
We'll see you in the next one.